It's Zach and Tahlia from the Inspired Guidance podcast. We're here to record episode 5, but before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the land on which we live and work as Ghana country and pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. So, today's episode topic is kind of, it's kind of a customized version of what we do. So it's like a intro to tarot and an intro to Reiki. Very, very much with our personal spins on what that means to us and how we do it.
Yeah, basically what we've done is simplified what we do as spiritual practitioners to give you, if it's something that you've not thought of before, or if you want to know a bit more about tarot or Reiki, this is going to really give you some more background on the modality that might be best for you if you want to start off exploring your spirituality. Yeah,
or if you are, a consumer of these kinds of things, just maybe there might be some key info in here that makes you go, oh, that's why I felt like that, in that session, or you still can resonate with all sorts, which we love, and that's how this whole project came to being.
Beautiful.
So who's going to go first?
Do you want me to?
Sure.
All right. So today I'm going to jump into Reiki and what that all is. So Reiki is when you get your first level of Reiki training, you get given a bit of a prayer. So that the whole premise of Reiki is to live and channel with unconditional love. And a good reminder of that is this prayer. And it goes like this. So it says, just for today, I will let go of anger. Just for today, I let go of worry. Just for today, I give thanks to my many blessings. And just for today, I will do my work honestly. Just for today, I will be kind to my neighbour and every living thing. And the idea is if you say this every day, then you're really framing and setting up your life for to live your life unconditionally with love and care for your fellow human beings, basically. So what is Reiki? So the meaning of the word Reiki is life force energy. This energy is all around us. It is the substance of our true essence of where we come from and where we are returning to. It really purely is unconditional love. And through the healing power of Reiki, we're able to raise our vibration, our well-being and the well-being of others as well. So in order to provide someone with a Reiki healing, you need to become a channel. And so you become a channel to channel Reiki by receiving an attunement. And there are several of those attunements that one could get. But really, if you're a consumer of Reiki, it's really important that you have an open mind and you have an open heart to really receive and let the energy flow through your body. And a lot of the times people can feel the energy flow through from their arms, their legs, their head. Sometimes you might feel like a really warm or cooling sensation. Sometimes really faint pins and needles. Just really, really interesting sensations around your body to let you know that you're receiving the Reiki healing. So to become a Reiki channel, you need to be attuned by a Reiki master. And this Reiki master teacher opens healing through giving you these symbols, and they're really, really ancient. It allows the flow of universal life force energy to flow through you, and so that you can pass this on to someone else. And so really when you're starting out and you're getting a Reiki healing, it's given the term of hands-on healing. So basically what that means is your hands are kind of activated and you can kind of pass on that Reiki energy to another person who is willing to receive it through the touch of your hand. And as you go up the training, you can be able to do that from distance, or you could do it online, that kind of thing as well, and through space and time as you get more qualifications. But so Reiki is all about channeling life force energy, and really it's the most powerful weapon that we have, isn't it, really, in the world? Like the power of love, really.
Yeah.
Without the risk of sounding a little bit too cliche. But I think that's why I really was drawn to Reiki myself, because as a society and as a human race, we need to be able to raise our vibrations enough to love others, especially when they're not that easy to love, because that just is more of a reflection of how we are versus how they are. So we need to be making sure we provide people with that healing space and that healing energy.
Yeah, so basically, like, energy is very powerful, so therefore we are very powerful if we are using that in the right way.
Exactly.
Which is, awesome. Now, I have a question about hands-on healing.
Yeah.
Because I've had Reiki before. I don't think that actually touched me.
Okay, yeah.
So when does every like Reiki practitioner do hands-on?
No, not every.
Okay.
So basically, hands-on healing is the entry level into becoming a Reiki healer.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have your level 1 attunement, you will only be able to provide someone with a Reiki healing by touching them. So it'll be by channeling and touching them and letting the energy flow through you if you've just got your first level attunement. As you go up, so the Reiki level 2 attunement, that's when you're introduced to symbols, and those symbols can act in place of actually touching a person. And it kind of works is the more attunements you have, so there's 3, and so the third attunement is your Reiki Masters, but basically the more attuned you are, the more open of a channel you are, and so therefore you don't need to have hands-on healing all the time. So with hands-on healing, that's when you would find someone to do a Reiki healing with their hands initially with their first level of attunement. Now personally, I'm a Reiki master and I love hands-on healing. So if you're someone like me, you might choose to provide someone with hands-on healing as well as having all of your attunements. I find that as human beings, it's always important for us to connect. And I think a lot of the times we're really, really too busy in our lives, and that touch element of, that hugging that friend or that human connection element is always lost. So I like to bring that human connection element back to all of my healings. Mm-hmm. And so when I conduct a session, I'll explain to a client, especially if they're new, that, through the Reiki healing, I may be touching parts of the body, always on the outside of the perimeter of the body. So I would be touching either the head, the shoulders, the arms, the hands, or the knee, or the foot. Mm-hmm. And I would work around the body as I feel intuitively called.
Yeah. So is it routine for every one of your clients that you would say that spiel and you would probably do some form of hands-on healing in the session?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that's how I like to channel. So I do a combination. So the entire time someone's on the table, they could be on the table for up to an hour. And that entire time I'm not hands-on healing. I'll be channeling downloads, I'll be placing my symbols across them, I'll be sitting back, letting their body respond to that energy, I'll be having a look into their auric field and seeing if there's anything that needs to be removed, and I'll use implements to remove those attachments to people's auric field. So I use all different combinations. That's why I love Reiki, because it's so rich and individualized that, someone that likes to go back to basics a lot, I like to use my hands to help frame how the healing will be, I suppose, conducted. But then from that, I use the symbols and all the gestures that I've learned through other forms of Reiki as well. So Seishem and Karuna.
Yeah. I love that. And I mean, you guys listening to our audience, in case you've probably noticed by now that from our episodes and the way that we talk about this stuff is we are very, individualized in our practice. So even though, comparing me to other tarot readers or Zach to other Reiki healers, we all do things in our own way, even though we're doing the same modality. It can be very different.
Exactly. So that's why it's really important. If one practitioner doesn't really hit the spot that you were looking for or doesn't really resonate with you, keep trying different practitioners, even of the same modality, so like Reiki or tarot, for instance, because you just never know how someone's going to deliver their modality and how it might impact you in such a different way.
That's right, and sometimes you just don't, we don't resonate with everyone, and that's fine. Somebody else will. So it is a little bit of a matchmaking situation.
With anything, with seeing a psychologist or a doctor, you would want to go to someone that's able to support you in the way that you need to be supported.
Yeah.
So the last thing I just wanted to talk about Reiki and the chakra systems. So Reiki really helps to align and get the energy running in your chakras across your body. So just in case you're not too sure what a chakra is, it's actually a Sanskrit word which means wheel. And so there are 7 main points in your body where these wheels reside within your energy system. And if there's a blockage or if there's an issue in the energy flow in any of these wheels, chakras, then you could be susceptible to feeling really tired, run down. Sometimes you might just feel a bit directionless. You might be easily taken advantage of, those kinds of things. Or you might be finding that you're starting to experience some chronic symptoms that might lead into a condition that needs to be treated by a psychologist or a medical professional.
Yeah, acute or chronic symptoms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Depending on how long it takes you to find the cause of where it's coming from.
Yep, 100%. And so with Reiki, we're all about prevention. Prevention
Absolutely.
Being better than the cure. So we talk about, let's just start with the chakra systems from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So the very first chakra that you have is your crown chakra. This is your connection to universal life force energy, otherwise known as source, and that God energy or goddess energy, the divine. Then you've got your third eye chakra, which is placed right here inside. It's actually connected to pineal gland in the brain. The third eye chakra is all about your psychic capabilities. So a symptom of an imbalanced third eye chakra is having dark and dangerous psychic experiences, or being completely disconnected to your emotions, that empathy, being really disconnected from seeing people's intentions, not being able to recognize patterns in behavior. That psychic awareness and psychic energy will be completely blocked.
So would that be like in dreams as well?
Yeah.
Would be like dark or like more nightmare?
Yes, they can be, but that could also mean something from the second dimension has kind of hitched a ride in your auric field.
Yeah.
But that's another...
Okay, so not necessarily.
Another issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. With the throat chakra is the next one. Mm-hmm. Issues with your throat chakra might be like really persistent coughing, or being unable to kind of stand up for yourself, boundary setting. If we think about the throat, I guess if you have a blockage anywhere from your throat and below, you might even be getting lots of burping for no reason. And because that energy needs to come out of somewhere, it'll come through your throat if you're if there's any blockages underneath it, your throat is open. So just a heads up with that. All about communication, your throat chakra. Then we go to your heart chakra, right? So that's characterized by green or pink. And your heart chakra is characterized with self-love, self-compassion. It's all about looking within and treating your body as something that is holy. Yeah. And having a lot of care and respect and self-love for yourself.
Yeah, I think intention's important with the heart chakra, isn't it? Because
sure.
Everything, your thoughts, your communication, all the other stuff isn't coming and going from a place of love, then you're going to notice some blockages, some symptoms there, aren't you?
100%, yeah. Then we've got our solar plexus. So if we think about our sternum, it goes up and down. The solar plexus is that soft spot just above our belly, really, that area. And that solar plexus is all about confidence, courage, the will to move forward. So if you're finding that you're really hesitant with achieving your goals, or you lack a lot of self-confidence and self-esteem, and you doubt yourself quite a lot, really focus on getting that unblocked. And seeing a Reiki healer will help you, because we'll work to make sure all of your chakras are aligned. Yeah. So we don't just focus on one. We have a look at your entire energy system from the crown all the way down to the root chakra. And based on that, we'll work on the ones that are stuck initially, but then we'll make sure that energy is flowing conducively between all of the chakras, so that you can leave feeling perfect, hopefully, as perfect as you can, really.
Yeah, or at least back to your sort of baseline in your own energy.
Yeah, exactly. I like to call it ground zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. All right, so we've got the sacral chakra just down from the solar plexus. Yeah. The sacral chakra is where we keep our trauma. Okay, so the sacral chakra is all about emotions. It's all about sexuality. It's all about creation, creativity. It's all about letting your divine god or goddess energy out. And if that is impacted in any way, say from a previous life trauma, or circumstances from a previous relationship, or self-limiting beliefs where you may be unconsciously adding trauma to yourself without knowing, you can be really held back in that area. So just to be really mindful, if we don't process our trauma, it's going to come back another way. And it does likely come back in the form of a chronic, acute, diagnosable condition if we don't work through it. And so that's really part of clearing this chakra, is to accept and release yourself from the ties of trauma that have happened to you in the past. Finally, the most, very, very, very important, I wouldn't say the most important, but the base chakra is your root chakra. This is your grounding on this world, your purpose, your belonging, your safety, your stability. Basically, you feeling connected with life, you feeling connected with your lifetime on this earth. So if this chakra is out of alignment, some really severe cases could see someone to potentially look at acts of prematurely transitioning from this planet. Otherwise, you might just be feeling really lost, hopeless, helplessness. You may be having some victim mentality, victim mindset, where you're not able to see your part of your healing. Obviously, there are times when other people transgress against us, but it's up to us to release ourselves from that and take our healing to the next level, so we're no longer under that control. And that's really what the root chakra is about. It's to say, it ends here with me, I'm here for a reason, and I'm making that very clear to myself and to everyone else around me.
Yeah, it is quite, and this is obviously a really important one for us, which is why you wanted to say, almost went to say this is most important, but really they're all important. But that's one where it's like building a stable foundation for all the other chakras to come into alignment on top of that. So if we don't have that stability, which can only come from within ourselves, then those symptoms that Zach described is going to be what you sort of succumb to that.
Exactly. So that's basically Reiki in a nutshell, guys. Just remember, channeling the universal life force energy or unconditional love. In order to channel Reiki, you need to be attuned by a Reiki master. There are 3 levels. There is the Reiki level 1 practitioner, 2 practitioner, and the level 3 masters. And when you become a master, you can start to teach, and you can start to educate others in the way of the energy healing system.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. So if there's anything, if anyone has any questions about Reiki that didn't get covered just then, of course, send them to us. If you're in our Facebook group, start a discussion in there. And same for me, if there's anything left unsaid at the end of this with the tarot. We love questions.
We do, and if anything was unclear, please, we'd be more than happy to answer your questions. Yeah.
Cool.
Beautiful. So
all right.
Over to Tahlia for her intro into tarot.
Okay, so I'm going to start with a little bit of the background to what tarot reading is, because there's, even today, a very intense misconception of what tarot is. So we kind of have to go back to the start, and that explains why it has the reputation that it does, but New Age tarot is completely different. So, and that's where I want to sort of say how I came, how I use it, I suppose, in my business. So tarot has actually been around since the 1400s. It's very dated, not dated. What's the word?
It's an ancient tradition.
Yes,
right?
Thank you. Yeah. It's been around for a very, very long time, but it was known very differently. So it used to be pretty much a card game, but it was something that only sort of quite wealthy people or people of high status could play. So this is where the court cards get their name of king, queen, page, knight, similar to a normal deck of 52 cards. You get the 4 suits and then your court cards. So that's where it sort of began. And then into the 19th century, it started to be used more as a divination tool. And tarot decks are 78 cards. So you still have similar similarities to a normal deck of cards. You've got 4 suits. You've got the court cards that go with all the 4 suits. But with tarot, there's an extra 21 cards, which are called the major arcana. And the suits are called the minor arcana.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So with the major arcana, these extra 21 cards, when these cards are pulled, does that have an overarching influence over the reading? Is that how it works?
Actually, it's 22 cards. I lied. 22. Sorry, 22. But yes.
So does the major arcanas, are they the big ticket, if you draw them, then, watch out for this awesome, exciting...
Yeah, so the major arcana cards are they're more influential, I suppose, or more powerful. So if they're coming up in a reading, if somebody's cards, and I would put out what we call a spread, so there could be 3 to 5, usually I start off with, but we build on that. If all of those happen to be major arcana cards, then that person that I'm reading for is going through a huge, life-changing experience. There is, okay. That's big, that's significant. And the same if they were all minor arcana cards, then I would say, okay, this situation is possibly feels bigger than it is, and we can actually get this resolved quite quickly or easily. So yeah, it does all have a meaning. Tarot actually gets extremely deep, and it's something that you learn for the rest your whole life, and you'd still never completely know everything, because that's just the element of it. As it sort of developed into this divination tool, it became quite got this reputation of fortune telling. So it was, and that's something that bothers me today. And if you were to look up Google definition of tarot, it would be mode for fortune telling or something like that. Or future predictions, which is not how it's used in New Age, and it's certainly not how I use it, and I don't identify with that, and it's on my website as something that I just don't think is necessary. Obviously there's elements of looking into what's ahead for someone and the outcome, but that's different. It's not fortune telling. So now the artwork for the tarot decks is very significant. So in the 19th century, when these cards were being used as games or as fortune telling tools, there were some cards, so the court cards of course had images of queen, king, and then some of the cards which come from this Italian artist, and I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, but it's Visconti Sforza. So this Visconti Sforza deck had 39 pipe cards, 20 trump cards, and 15 face cards. So, quite different definitions to the major and minor arcana that we use today in the court cards. And some of these cards had artwork connected to them that is similar to the major arcana cards, but it wasn't until 1909 that Pamela Coleman Smith illustrated every single card in the tarot deck, and she was the first person to kind of invent the minor arcana and the illustrations that came with that. So basically her work was extremely significant, especially for that time. And the most common deck that it's the foundation of everything kind of tarot today, is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And the Smith, which comes from Pamela Coleman Smith, was only added on recently, so in modern times. It used to be just known as Rider-Waite. So she didn't even get recognized for this humongous impact that she had on the tarot world and on this deck until years after her death. If you... I go on about it all the time. A lot of other tarot readers will talk about her all the time. You might have heard her be referred to as Pixie. She was sort of known as Pixie, but her full name was Pamela Coleman Smith. I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledged her and her impact on the tarot, because it's pretty much, she pretty much invented it, kind of. All right, so back to, I guess, what I do, and to help you guys, if you are looking at doing some tarot reading or getting an oracle deck. So oracle decks are less specific. They're a lot easier to attune with and to read from. So if you're wanting just something for personal use, definitely go with an oracle deck. If you're a beginner, I started with an oracle deck, so it's just the nicest way to go about it.
And I find, because I have 2 oracle decks as well, I find sometimes, say if you're a professional medium and you're a psychic reader, and you're in a really busy environment and you're at fairs and psychic markets and that kind of thing, I personally find that oracle decks, for me, help just to establish that connection initially, like with the client, so that they can see what I'm working on. Yeah. And that opens them up so that their guides and their loved ones can come through a bit more. So I like to use it as a bit of a tool to help kind of illustrate the message that I'm getting from the mediumship perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I can always say something to a client, especially with someone like I've just met, because at the same time, of course, I'm reading their energy and I'm getting downloads myself. But it doesn't have the same effect when the client can see me pull a card that not only like matches what I've just described, but the image, the artwork, because I have a lot of decks. Anyone who knows me or has had a reading with me knows that I use 40 decks in a reading. So intuitively, whichever one I'm called to for that person, like the artwork or something in that deck will just be so relevant to the discussion, and sometimes it even looks like people that they know. That's happened before with mediumship connections. So yeah, it's just, there's endless potential, I guess, is the point I want to make. But tarot is specific. So if you want to read tarot cards, you would need to undertake some form of foundational training in what the original cards represent. And I teach a tarot course, and I only use the Rider-Waite-Smith deck in the foundations course, because I don't know how you could learn to read tarot any other way. The modern decks today are amazing, and I use a lot of them, but they do have very different interpretations in terms of the artwork, especially, than the Rider-Waite. So if you don't have that foundational knowledge, it's just harder to read the modern decks, because you're missing like a crucial part of the information. So that's why I run it that way, and just so you guys know, if that's the easiest way to do it, if that's what you're looking for. So once you've decided what you want to do, if it's Oracle, Tarot, whatever, a question I get asked a lot is how to pick the right deck for you, because there's millions out there and they're all beautiful. So the advice is it's just picking something that resonates with you. So it could be the designer, the artist, or the writer, if you follow them. It could be the artwork on the deck. So usually there's pictures on the box, you can kind of have a look. Sometimes there's not and you have to Google it, which is a bit annoying, but I will always look up the artwork before I commit to buy a deck. So once you have chosen your deck, brought it home, you want to build a connection with it. Actually, you probably want to cleanse it first. So you want to cleanse your decks first when you bring them home before you start to work with them. So, and that's the same whether they're brand new or whether you buy them secondhand or whether it's gifted to you. No matter what you do, you want to cleanse it. And even like for me, because I'm using my cards on clients, so I'm cleansing them after every use, really. And I do that with crystals. So I put, I kind of mix it up every now and then, but usually I like to have certain crystals with certain decks depending on what the energy is that I get off of them. But that's just the nicest way I feel to cleanse the energy of them, because at the end of the day, it's paper. So you can't really go, I mean, you can sage it if you want, but the cards will retain that smoky smell. If that bothers you, if it doesn't bother you and you're not using your cards professionally, then by all means you can do that method. But if it does, and you're like me and they're like my babies, I won't be, saging. Like, I'll do the room and my cards will be in the room, that's fine. But I won't actually run the cards through a smudging technique or anything like that, because it does take the smell in. The other thing is water, so like essential oil sprays or anything like that, again, you can damage the cards. So I just find crystals the easiest method. Now, building a relationship with the cards is probably the trickier one, because it requires you to do a lot of work with your own psychic abilities and work out how you read. So it's actually quite a commitment, especially if you want to read professionally. So you can learn the foundations of the tarot. That will give you about 20% of what you need to know to read tarot. Then you need to spend sort of 80% building your relationship with the decks and your own psychic abilities. And that's before you can read tarot, really.
Wow, so that's the extra 80%.
Yeah, like it's, you can get the information. You can get it from anywhere, really, but if you don't know how to use it and interpret it and have that versatility between decks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question then?
Mm-hmm.
So someone's starting out.
Yeah.
They've just bought their first deck because they thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
And they've done a little course and they're really willing to just try and jump in and see what they can do with tarot. What would be the first piece of advice you would give them to start to build a relationship with their deck?
You can, so I would first do that on your own.
Would you meditate with them, or do you look at the photos?
Yeah, meditation's a good one. I will first start with opening the box. I will look at all the artwork on each of the cards and just sort of get, just eyeball them really and get a bit of a feel for them. The decks do come with guidebooks, which the author of that specific deck will have their own meanings that they attach to their cards. Of course, you can refer to that or not refer to that and read it however you want. But I'd look through the artwork. I don't actually read the book as soon as I get it. I will refer to it sort of as needed when I go about the deck. But what you'll do is probably ask your deck questions, start shuffling it, and get some cards with some answers. So you could ask things, and this information usually is in the guidebooks, but if it's not, you can Google it. Sometimes they're a bit, in my opinion, dramatic. Like they'll say, ask your deck what it can do for this, and have all these questions. I don't like to pull a card to answer that question because I can find that limiting. For example, whatever the answer is from the card, then you'd be like, oh, this deck will only help me with this thing. And so you wouldn't use it for other reasons.
Got you.
So I don't follow certain questions like that because I like my decks to talk to me and whoever I'm reading for, and they do that in endless ways. So it's just about being open to that coming through. But I will ask some questions. I kind of work, I don't follow any rules, so this probably isn't helping you guys very much. I build my relationships with my cards over time and as I use them, and so I start to get more familiar with the energy that comes from that deck, and then I will associate its purpose. So like I have a deck that's like for romance, and that's like my love deck. I have one that is usually what I would use for career questions because it's just very appropriate for those sorts of things. So that's how I do it. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. It was really insightful, actually. Yeah.
And of course, there's more ways, and I completely made mine up as I went. So you might want to do the same if the questions in the guidebook don't resonate with you. But just as long as you are building a relationship with the deck and you are getting a feel for the energy and you are developing your own skill, I suppose, in interpreting that data, because that's really the biggest challenge and what probably takes the longest time. So if you tuned into our episode last week, you would have heard our topic on energy protection and energy balance. So this next part kind of explains to you guys the elements of what we discussed in that episode and how we actually use it every day in our practice. So intentions was one of the things we talked about as a form of energy protection. So every time that a client comes in for a reading, before I start the reading, before I pull a card, I'm setting the intention that I'm opening up my protection barriers that are normally sort of, I suppose, more rigid. I'm lessening that for the purpose of connecting to this person's energy so that I can read it and read for them. And then at the end of their reading, I will verbally say, I'm going to pull a card from this deck to close your reading. So that'll be like the final piece of advice that brings everything together. And I've also stated and set that intention that I don't need to be connected to this person's energy anymore. We're going to close it off after this card's pulled. So that's how I connect with my clients. I think you do something sort of similar.
Yeah, so I blow out the candles.
Yeah.
And I say thank you, Spirit. And at each candle I blow out, I say thank you, Spirit, for coming through today. And then we blow out another one, thank you, Spirit, for coming through today. And that is when I symbolise that the energetic connection has been completed.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention that because we get a lot of questions all the time where people have this sort of misconception of us that we're just constantly psychically analysing everyone, and that's not the case. Like we are not connected and switched on all the time. I think that would just be, I don't know,
it would be really overwhelming.
It would be really overwhelming.
We wouldn't be able to live our own human lives, and we do live our own human lives, and this is a job for us that we love and we are called to do. So that's why we really want to hone on our skills in that, I suppose, paid setting where it's the settings are, I guess, already open. Like, it's a consent's been shared to provide a reading, to engage with spirit. It's a very sacred experience.
Consent is a really important one, but for me it's like responsible use of our abilities. So we are following some you know, it's like spiritual hygiene, isn't it?
Yeah.
It all comes sort of back to that.
Exactly.
However, even though we go to all of these lengths, sometimes if the universe is just like, nope, this person, I don't know, in the street or that you've just met, a loved one might be there, or, you know, occasionally spirit will come through really strong, and those sort of rules don't apply, and we just have to go with what's come to us. So that's the only time that we would, I guess, deviate from our structure. Also, because I work from home, I mean, we both do, we do a lot of markets and things which are different, but every now and then we will get a client who is coming to the home office, and they would have pre-booked their reading from, you know, days, sometimes longer, but usually like days before. So you're expecting them, and I haven't met them before, like they would have come through the website or they've been a referral or something like that. But as I'm preparing my space, my office, my house, I'm connecting to that person's energy before they arrive. And so at times that's happened and the energy has been very chaotic, or cluttered and like scattered. And so I'm going to feel that straight away. And I know it's not mine because there won't be any reason in my life for me to be feeling these ways. So I will go into my office and I will set an extra intention that before that client enters my home, we need to, like, they basically can't come in to my office with that energy, or I will not be able to do a reading on them. It'll just be a confusion of cards. So I set an intention that energy stays at the door, and when they come in here, they're coming into my energy, and it's clear, it's peaceful, it's whatever it needs to be for me to do my work and connect to them. So I did that. Had this client, I mean, it's happened to me multiple times, but I'm going to tell a story about this one in particular that happened just last week. So the client comes in, we're sitting in my office doing the reading, and it's, you know, going as I set the intention to go. I'm able to get all her messages, I'm able to read for her, and she actually stated how different she felt in the time that she was here receiving her reading compared to this state of crisis that she's basically been in for years. So that was really nice validation for me that actually worked. You know, kind of, unfortunately, the nature is that as she left, she would have then gone back into her previous energy, but she's at least had that grounding moment to see clearly before returning to her situation that she needs to sort out. So, yeah, I just thought that was really, I don't know, cool. I hope you guys find that interesting. But I think it's important to mention, you know, we do a lot behind the scenes.
Definitely. Our sessions with you guys, and we love it so much.
Yes.
But they are not just the 45 minutes to an hour that you might have with us. Quite honestly, they can take up to a couple of hours in preparation and then in grounding time afterwards as well. Especially if we have any write-ups or notes that we want to share with you. You guys are really in our thoughts before and after, as we clear our space, clear the energy, and make it all pristine for someone else to come into. So that's why sometimes you might get a tarot reading or a Reiki healing, and you might think that it's a little bit expensive, or you know, you're not sure if you want to commit to something so costly. But just know that a lot of work and preparation, a lot of training, a lot of dedication goes into this kind of spiritual work that we do for you all. We're just so glad that we can do this with you.
Yeah, and of course the pricing is going to differ between a lot of us, not by a lot, hopefully, but they're similar. But you're going to realise pretty quickly after seeing a spiritual practitioner, whoever you choose to see, if that value is there for you or not.
Definitely.
So, yeah, and it should be. Yeah. Otherwise, maybe don't see them. So while we're on the, just to close up, because I think, I've covered all the notes I wanted to talk about with tarot, but I do have some pet peeves that I want to address. So I just want to make a blanket statement that tarot does not rule your life. Tarot cards are not here to tell you make major decisions for you, whether you're getting them read professionally or you're doing it for yourself. Tarot is there to provide insight, to provide guidance, to give you the information that you need to see on an outcome or on a particular path if you're contemplating on sort of which direction or which option to choose. So if clients come to me and they're like lost, or they want some direction, or they just don't know what's going on, I will pull cards on their current situation and basically say, if you continue doing things as you're doing them, nothing changes, this is your perceived outcome for the relatively near future, which is to me sort of 2 to 6 months. I wouldn't read beyond that, because there's just I just think it would be silly. There's so many things that can influence an outcome in 6 months that it's almost impossible to read beyond that. So yeah, you would get sort of a rough idea of what's going on in their current situation and what's happening in the near future. Then I would say, okay, if you wanted to take this opportunity, this job, this, date this person or investigate this feelings that you have for this person, or whatever the situation is, I'd pull a card on that and say, these are the opportunities available. This is the relatively near future outcome if you take that path. And there can be, sometimes people come to me and they're like, I've got 10 job options, which one do I do? So we're going to read for 10 different things, but usually it's sort of 1 to 5. So I'm giving options, and then it's up to my client to choose what they want to do. I'm not here to make any decisions for anyone. The cards aren't really, but they are going to tell you, they're going to be able to show you which one offers the most opportunity for soul growth, which is what the whole point is of doing spiritual work.
So really you're showing people different timelines, basically, on snapshot, this is your situation now, and then basically from that you can show them different timelines on if they make different choices along those choice paths. There are certain themes that could come up. Yeah, so a lot of the time, whatever is meant for us is not going to pass us by. Exactly. But there can be delays. Different timelines in terms of working on where you're going. That can certainly change by the guidance given by the cards. So often, whatever their current situation is, and usually it's a situation that is, there's some element of that is not serving the person, which is why they're coming to me in the first place, because something is wrong in their life. So they can either continue down that path, and it usually shows that things don't change. So they'll kind of have that stuck feeling. But if they make the changes that the cards are sort of showing, I'm always going to say what the cards show, and I'm always going to say whatever downloads and intuitive messages I receive, I'm always going to say, even if sometimes they don't make sense, sometimes they're really bizarre, or just random quotes that I would never say, but these quotes just pop in my head and I'll say it, and my client will just start pissing themselves laughing, or they'll just be like, oh my god, my blah blah used to say that all the time. So it means nothing to me, but it's come through, so I have to say it, and sometimes to the clients it means everything, so it's just really bizarre. But yeah, we're always going to address what comes through, and it's up to you guys what you do with that information. Yes, that's that. I feel like I was going somewhere with that. But that's basically what I wanted to point out, that there is options. It's not this thing that, a tarot reader told me to do this, so I'm just going to do it without thinking. That's not the situation. You should be using judgment. Yeah, guys, you're always in control, and something that Tahlia and I are really passionate about is making sure that you're aware that the control is always in your hands. Yeah. And so based on our, even through a Reiki healing, if something comes up that's in your auric field, or I get the intuitive sense of inner child healing, sometimes I can see, flashes of what's happened in your past life, and I can bring that up and talk about it in a way to help you heal and to release that trauma from you. it's your choice as to whether or not you release a trauma, or it's your choice as to whether or not you follow a path. Everything is in your control. Really, our outcome in being spiritual practitioners for you guys is for you to see that you can change your life. And the more that you get to know your soul, and the more that you get to know, that we're all souls in like a human body.
Yeah, so you're connecting your human self to your soul self.
Exactly.
Which is a lot of what we are trying to do, because that's how you gain empowerment.
Yeah. And we're all part of this same world. You'll be able to see when you do raise that vibration in the way that you're thinking, you'll be able to see that we are all similar, and we all have really similar needs. And so sometimes people who are stuck and people who are struggling and just haven't come to terms with the fact that they're holding on to something. And so we're really just wanting to let you guys know it's all in your control. Mm-hmm. You're the ones that can change your life. We're just here to help you along the way.
Yeah, and it's not a criticism if you do stay in a current situation, because there's always a lesson to be learnt, and sometimes we're not ready to deviate from that path yet. So you may choose to stay there for a bit longer and then have a reading, in a couple of months or whenever you feel like you need one again, and just check in. And then you might be closer to ready to leave then, and then the next time you might actually take a different path and change your life and find that empowerment. But each to their own, and I'm certainly someone who has stayed stuck in my situation and for a long time before I felt ready to leave. So we all move in the timing that we're meant to.
Yeah.
And just on the reason I also wanted to talk before about how, be transparent and honest about what comes to us in a session and what we're communicating with you guys, because sometimes we will receive messages during a reading for someone that are actually meant for us, specifically in that moment regarding how we're delivering information to a client. Mm-hmm. So in my experience, this has happened to me with a client who it was their first time having a reading. They were referred to me by a friend, so my first time meeting them, and the reading was actually very intense. We did a lot in 1 hour. It was a great session, but there were elements in her cards and in her reading that straight away I could look at that and see, okay, I know what this is. In spiritual terms, it was a twin flame situation, which I'm not going to get into. Do not Google it. Don't go down the rabbit hole unless you have to. But in that situation, that's what it was. And basically all you need to know is that the twin flame journey is a very complex, romantic journey between two souls that are very, well, they're actually divine counterparts of the same soul. So it's a massive spiritual awakening journey. Now, I was reading for this client and I could see that in the cards, but Spirit was telling me that's too much information for where this person is at in their soul growth journey. So don't go there, because it can actually deter people further from their healing path if we take them too deep too quickly.
Yeah.
So I had to, it wasn't necessary anyway in the reading for me to go there. The messages came out that she needed to see, and she was already making the changes that she needed to do on her healing path. So it wasn't even necessary. But I'm just making the point that sometimes we do get messages that are for us, and we take that into account when we're reading, because of course it's a personalized experience, and it's about being client focused.
I think it's really good that you mentioned that, Tahlia, because we're here not as mediums who are just going to freely just blurt out things with a lack of sensitivity. We very much know that we're dealing with you guys and people going through real life situations.
Yeah, like the clients that we see, sometimes people come to us, they're very vulnerable and they're very easily influenced. So it's actually so much responsibility to do what we do, because we can really help someone. Not like us. We help people. You can also really I don't know, unhelp people. We
Yeah,
don't do that.
That's right. You can give someone too much too quickly.
Yeah.
Their brain is fried. It's called spiritual burnout. They don't know anything anymore. They're completely disconnected from the world around them because they've just had all of this spiritual information just thrusted upon them, and they don't have the skills to be able to equip themselves to digest it and implement the information across their life. I just want to talk about an example of that, if you like, where I had to pull back in a mediumship session once because my client actually disclosed, and trigger warning guys, but my client actually disclosed that they were going through a domestic violence situation. As soon as they disclosed that to me, I disconnected from spirit completely. And I brought back down to earth, really, us both. And we had a conversation about any action that needs to happen today. Are they safe? What do they need from me? Mm-hmm. What actions are they comfortable to take the next step with? What ended up happening was they ended up getting in contact with Women's Safety Services through my contact information. And they were able to get a plan put together to get to their safe home out of that safe relationship. So really, at the end of the day, it's up to us to work with spirit and to work with you guys as our clients to make sure that you are safe, that you are in control the entire time, and that we're here to hold space for you if any issues arise, you know?
Well, that's it for our content. We're going to wrap up this episode. You may have heard some shaking and sounds in the background. That's just my dog shaking his collar or pitter-pattering around the room. Yeah. So sorry if that came through. I'm not sure if it did, but we'll find out, I suppose, when we go to edit the video.
Exactly. Now, please, everyone, like, share and subscribe. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify. Our episodes come out every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Australian Central Standard Time, and we can't wait to connect with you all on our Inspired Guidance Podcast Facebook group. If you haven't already signed up, please sign up.
All right, until next week.
Bye.
See ya.